What's up, everybody? Coming to you live. It's the Arena with SEADUB. How y'all doing? Man, I want to bring y'all a topic today that is probably kind of controversial, but I find it interesting and I also find it essential knowledge, guys. Today, what I'm talking about is knowing when to quit. And I'm not talking about your job. This goes into any type of situation in life, whether it's relationships, whether it's physical endeavors, whether it's jobs, even friendships, financial type endeavors. Well, that's definitely one of the base discussions for this, because that's how I came to know this knowledge in the first place. I spent some time working around a guy that was a really well-respected oil and gas person in my area, and this is a mega rich guy. You know, he was getting to know me and I was getting to know him, and we struck it off really well together, and I like the guy a lot, and still highly respect the guy in my area. When he was working with me and stuff, he asked me, where do I come about my skills and what makes somebody like me unique? Well, I listed off a couple of the attributes, that I would give myself, but then I told him as well, I was like, one thing about me is I'll never give up. And that's when he stopped me and he told me that that's not necessarily a good quality. He said, never giving up is sometimes a bad quality, especially in his line of work, because if you never give up on certain things, you'll end up chasing after them past the point of profit, or you'll put yourself into the red over certain situations where if you would have gave up and cut your resources and cut your spend on certain things further in the past, you make more profit. Some people might equate this with the sunken cost fallacy, which is a widely known psychological term, or philosophical term, whatever. The anecdotal story that he gave me to support what he was saying was, say there's a gas well that you have, and maybe you've extracted 90% of the gas out of the well and you've made a lot of money on it over the years, but there's 10% that remains, and you have to drill and dig and spend a lot of resources trying to get it, and you end up using an extra year trying to chase that last 10% out of the well. But by the time you get that 10%, you've sent so much manpower on it, you spent so much money running the equipment, you've spent so much money on the logistics and transportation of the equipment and stuff like that, that the last 10% is actually not worth the resources used to get it out of the ground. And with that, he explained to me that the pure profits are taking that 90 and knowing that that next 10% is not worth the squeeze. Ever since he told me that, I always reflected on it in my life in situations where I think about, is chasing after this next percentile or this next goal, next milestone worth what has to be used, is it worth what I have to give to get that next milestone reward or next percentage gained? And I think it's interesting to look at, lots of things in life through that type of lens. When you look at it as if you're chasing after something that won't be worth the chase, or you're going to use too much resources on it, it's really interesting to keep in mind those type of situations. And, I can link it back to even like boxing type turns. Knowing when to quit sometimes, knowing when to throw the towel in is important, because you may not win every single battle, but you live to fight another day. And if you put yourself in a situation where you can't live to fight another day, then you're done fighting. You don't get another chance. And I think that's especially important for business as well, because resources are finite, right? So if you use up all your resources chasing after one thing and it fucking tanks you, then you're not going to get another chance to go back out there and take another shot at things. And like I said in an earlier video, you only need lightning to strike one time. But the moment you can't afford to fight anymore, the moment you can't afford to take another swing, oh buddy, you're missing the real opportunities there, because maybe you went too hard in one direction, which capped you from being able to pivot and move in other directions. And let's link that back to boxing one more time. Pivot and move in other directions. What's that called? Being light on your feet, And the heavier you are sunk into certain things, into certain endeavors, it restricts you from being light on your feet. Maybe it's locking up your money. Maybe it's locking up your time. Maybe it's locking up your attention or just your emotional bandwidth to deal with certain things. But the moment you allow yourself to be locked down and not light on your feet, you can't move around around the board as easily. And maybe not all situations in life require you to quit something, but require you to establish boundaries for how much bandwidth, money, time, emotions you can dedicate to certain projects. I understand that what I'm getting out of this is less than what I'm putting into it, so I'm going to cut back my inputs and ride the output a little more. Anyways, guys, I'm going to keep this video short because some of the other videos I've made recently are a little bit longer, but this has been the Arena with SEADUB. If you got any topics you would like me to explore, as well as I'm going to keep going into my personal dive and personal memory banks and give you guys the stories, because without the story there is no glory, guys. This has been the Arena with SEADUB. If you found me on here, I love you guys. I don't promote this to any of my traditional channels, so hopefully I can remain anonymous on here. But if you find me and enjoy this and enjoy my content, reach out to me. Peace.